From James Gunn's brother Sean pulling double duty to the surprise return of two actors from the Snyderverse, here is the bombshell update on the cast for the first project of the new DC universe. But here's the twist: it isn't Superman Legacy. Although DC Studios head honcho James Gunn has billed the new Superman movie as the new beginning of the DCU, one other project is gonna beat it to the punch. The enigmatic Creature Commandos will be hitting the newly rebranded Max in 2024, leading the rest of the DCU by a year. This 7-episode animated series adapts the comic team of the same name, who made their debut in the pages of a November 1980 issue of Weird War Tales. Created by J.M. DeMatteis and Pat Broderick, the first stories of the Creature Commandos took place during World War II, and they were doing the sort of things a commando unit would do. The only difference is that, unlike a typical commando unit, this squad was made up of a werewolf, a vampire, a Frankenstein monster, and a Gorgon. So, will the TV show feature a similar cast of creatures? It sure will. We've been learning a lot about the DC universe since the end of 2022, and today I've got the scoop about this show for you. While the series won't feature the exact same characters as the comic version of the team, they're definitely sticking with the basic idea. For starters, the team will be led by Rick Flag Sr., a normal human. That name might sound familiar to you, as Rick Flag was the leader of both movie versions of the Suicide Squad, and his character was especially vital to James Gunn's movie. Rick's dad is set to be played by Frank Grillo, an actor with capital C credentials. He's famously a frequent collaborator of the Russo brothers, and as such, he played Crossbones in the Captain America trilogy, and made cameos in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. This actually makes Grillo the first actor James Gunn has poached from his previous gig. Now, let's take a look at the weirdos that Flag will be leading. Up first are Indira Varma and David Harbour as our Frankenstein duo. Frankensteins are an iconic part of the Creature Commandos, and that's probably why we're getting two of them in this series instead of just one. The Stranger Thing portrayed by David Harbour will be Eric Frankenstein, who is literally the monster from Mary Shelley's novel, just in the DC universe. He's been a lot more prominent in DC's comics than you might think, gaining most of his modern fame as one of the 7 soldiers of victory. Indira Varma will play Bride of Frankenstein, who's also known as Lady Frankenstein or the Bride. Despite the name, the Bride isn't actually married to the Eric Frankenstein, and she's most commonly associated with Shade, an even shadier version of the Suicide Squad. Both of these actors are coming from some of the biggest TV shows of the past decade. Varma played the conniving Ilaria Sand in Game of Thrones, while Harbour was the ultimate zaddy in Stranger Things. This is already a massive acting pedigree for such a neat show, and we've just scratched the surface of the cast. Lady Frankenstein isn't the only Shade member in this team, as Nina Mazursky is also set to be a part of the team. Formerly a Shade scientist, Nina was actually inspired to create the Creature Commandos after losing her daughter and going through a divorce. Her first attempt at a team of childlike superpowered monsters went terribly wrong and resulted in unstable creatures, and although she was attached to them, she was forced to have them imprisoned for the safety of the world. I'm assuming things will turn out better the second time around, or else we won't really have a show. Her key to getting things right this time is to have the Commandos be adults who can actually cope with their transformations. She also performed a transformation on herself, turning into a mermaid and joining the team. Zoe Chow has been cast in this role, and seeing as her career's been pretty low-key, she's probably looking for her big break. Luckily, James Gunn is no stranger to elevating actors to new levels of stardom, so she is definitely in the right place. Another actor James is giving a shot at the limelight is his brother Sean. He has not one, but 2 roles in Creature Commandos. I'm making that sound like a big deal, but that's actually not as big of a deal in voice acting as it is in live action. Sean's gonna reprise his role as Weasel, the weirdest member of the squad that was sent out to die in the opening of the Suicide Squad. He survived that fiasco, but since we don't know if this show is taking place in the past or in the present, it's hard to say if that'll be relevant. The other role that Sean will play is G.I. Robot, another classic Creature Commandos member. Being a robot, there have been 6 iterations of this character over the years, and I'm assuming that James Gunn will combine aspects of all of them for this show.
Going off here, and this is to set up this, and this is to set up. I don't care. I never have cared about any of that. All I care about is the story, here and now, moving an audience, sharing our love for the material and our love for each other.
The upsides to having a robot on your team are obvious, but the GI robots aren't super advanced. Though they have armor and built-in weapons, some models have had downsides, like a limited ability to communicate with others. That being said, this weakness was addressed in the latest model of GI robot, so we'll have to see what Gunn goes with in the show. The next actor in the show might just be the most exciting one for a lot of y'all. If you're watching a video about a comic book show, you know who Alan Tudyk is. Joss Whedon's tragically short-lived Firefly show gave the nerd world many of their most beloved actors, from Nathan Fillion to Summer Glau to Adam Baldwin. Unlike a lot of those actors though, Alan Tudyk has continued to be a darling of geek culture, and since Firefly, the guy's been really busy. In DC Comics media alone, he has already been the voice of Mr. Nobody in the Doom Patrol show, as well as providing the voices of the Joker and Clayface in the brilliant Harley Quinn series. For Creature Commandos, Tudyk will be playing Dr. Phosphorus, who's actually typically a Batman villain. His comic book origin has him trying to build a nuclear power plant in Gotham City, while facing backlash from the people of the city. A meltdown at the plant blasted him with radiation, and because this was Batman and not Chernobyl, he got superpowers. I wonder if Gunn decided to go with Dr. Phosphorus as a villain because of how timely his origin is. Although this story was first published in the late 70s, it mirrors the battle around nuclear energy that's being fought today. His character has been adapted a number of times though. He's never been as prominent as, say, Joker or Bane, at least not yet. Before I wrap up today's video, there's actually one more surprise in the cast of this show. Amanda Waller and John Economos are back. That's right, the overarching villain of James Gunn's corner of the DC Extended Universe is back, and so is its favorite punching bag. Not only are Economos and Waller returning, but they're even being voiced by the OG actors, Steve Agee and Viola Davis. This is the part of the cast that I find the most interesting. It looks like Gunn is planning to connect Creature Commandos to the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, which is also why the show features Rick Flag Sr. But does this show take place in the present? The past? Could it feature time travel? I wouldn't put that past James Gunn. Viola Davis is building a really eccentric filmography for herself. She's done prestige dramas, earning Oscar nominations for many of those roles. And on the other hand, she's been in a movie that featured a giant talking shark. And now she'll be in a show that features two Frankensteins. With James Gunn in charge of the DC universe, I get the sense that Waller and other characters from this world are gonna be a lot more prominent. That's good for Viola Davis, but great for the DC universe, as her A-list star power brings a lot of credibility to the DC universe. With that, we've covered everything you need to know about the casting of Creature Commandos so far. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.